All right, hey guys, welcome back. So we're gonna take a look at dealing with a tie clinch or double collar tie or plum, whatever, whoever you've been learning it from. Looking at a couple of the basics that we teach. These are also very common. So for most, like you might be looking at this, oh yeah. Also looking at it from like little guy versus big guy standpoint, or little person versus bigger person standpoint, right? So double collar tie, he's doing a good job as far as if they got a shitty collar tie, like his elbows are flared out wide and he's holding the back of my neck instead of my head, it shouldn't be too much of a problem for you to get back to a postured position. A big part of what's going on here is that he's breaking my head down and he's got his head up. So he's got the weight bearing on my head, making it difficult for me to get out of here. Okay, so if he's got this good position, first baseline place that we can start playing and exploring is our swimming, right? And so I'm gonna take one hand, I'm gonna start to work my way up into the inside. If I have trouble getting past his elbows, like let's say, imagine Mike had some longer forearms and keep his elbows in nice and tight, and I'm getting stuffed here, I may need to think about dipping my shoulder to the inside to clear that elbow to then be able to swim. Okay, as I start to fight my way up, I try to get as high on the back of the head as possible, but at the very least getting to his neck, and I'm gonna pull my head up as I'm breaking his head down to get back to essentially a half collar tie in this position, and then I can swim to the inside and go from there. Again, likelihood that he lets me cleanly get to my own double collar tie is probably slim to none. However, what we're looking at is this basic idea of fighting to the inside to then fight and regain this posture of getting my head up, okay? So that's the first place to start. Again, if his elbows are wide or flared, he's not really pulling up on my head, this really should be easy, should be relatively simple to accomplish this, and at least create this framing, right, to open up space, and then I can implement with striking, or I can run and start doing some type of wrestling drills, whatever that is. But I create space, I get my head back up, which is the main objective here. If his elbows are in tight and he's holding, on the back of my head, it may be a little more problematic. I need to start weaseling my way in and leaving and climbing. But as a baseline principle, right, trying to get to a half collar tie, that's what I'm looking for, is to swim to the inside. Now, if he's doing a really good job of shoving this down, there's a couple of different ways that I can create space if I can't simply swim to the inside. He's doing a good job of holding on to my head here. So I can push on the chest or even push on the face to create more of an opening. You ever heard of this as like CPR, but both hands up over lap, like pushing to create the space? Or me personally, I'm just a huge fan of pressing on the head, right? So even if he's really trying to hold this in like good and solid, by getting to a place where I can shove his head out the outside, I may be able to open up some space here. And again, I can now climb to the inside and I can go to a half collar tie, or you can go to other things too, right? Like I like to go up here and start buckling down and do a good solid overhook. What matters is I'm creating enough space to then be able to posture myself up and break down his ability to hold there. Now, if you have trouble with the face push, like if he feels me coming up to go grab onto his face, he might simply tuck his head down and this may be less effective. So a couple of things to look for as he's doing this on the face push is as I'm going to shove, if he's holding me in tight and he's got his head away, well, his head's on this side, so then I can transfer over to this side, right? Because I'm going to get the biggest response out of him jamming shit into all of this right here. So one piece of the puzzle is if I'm just shoving on the back of his head, I'm most likely going to still be stuck here. If I want to really make some impact, I've got to get his face, usually below the eyebrows, including the nose, across the jawline. That makes things rough. So I want to be pushing from here. The other thing to think about as a smaller individual is I may be smaller. We can use bone structure to actually make this a little bit worse. So instead of pushing with my hand, I'm going to get my forearm, the ridge out here, and I'm going to start prying the forearm and the bone across all of that to then create the space and the separation I want to either strike or fight for my tie clinch from there. Okay, so swim to the inside, basic principle. I can't create that space. I can shove on his chest, but if I'm dealing with somebody larger, that's going to be problematic. So I start shoving on the head. Oh, his head's not there. I go to this side, and I start using the bones to create a little bit of pain and better leverage. And then again, I can feed my way and go to whatever I want to go from there. So that's option number 2. That's the one I usually go to. And then option number 3, and I'm a big fan of this one as well. I use it a little less. However, I use it with good success, is our ear pull. And when we say ear pull, that theoretically I'm reaching around trying to grab onto his ear. But realistically, I'm getting the other side of his head, and I'm gonna make my cow bite, something I've referenced several times in the past. I'm gonna come over and I'm gonna latch on to whatever I can get. I'm gonna latch onto his neck, I'm gonna latch onto his jaw, I'm gonna latch onto his ear, whatever I can hold, and I'm gonna pull my elbow, let's switch this way. I'm gonna pull my elbow towards my hips. So as opposed to pulling up and high, I'm pulling my elbow down and in this way. Same exact time I do that, I'm actually gonna walk my hips and my chest forward. Okay, and so I'm looking to collapse this elbow in, create an awkward position on his shoulder while also, messing with the spine a little bit. If I am, again, working with somebody bigger, I can double this up. So if my right arm swings over his head this way, I can take my left arm across to hook the elbow here, and now I can pull with both to create a little bit of extra breakdown as I walk my way in. And then again, from this position, look at the space I'm opening. Whether I want to try to fight again and go back inside to like a half collar tie, or whether I want to just simply break the posture position, create some separation there, or with any of these, whether I'm face pushing, or I swim in frame, or I do my ear pull, I can always then transition if I get some space to start to move elsewhere, okay? So in theory, I'm creating space through levers and breaking down spine and using my body to posture those up, but really what I'm trying to do is create space. I want to get my head and my torso right back up. I never want to let somebody hang on the back of my head, right? So last little nugget to take with you is even if I've got somebody that they're doing like I can't get around their big freaking head, it's like a big rigid neck, and I'm pushing on their head and they just don't seem to care and they're going to move, well, I can just start being a little bit of a nuisance to make him want to move his arms. So I can come up and just kind of cover his mouth and his nose. And in the very least, even if I don't frame and create a bunch of space, maybe he just simply wants to move a hand to get this off of his face, right? And then in that moment, then I can start moving to something else. Or in the very least, I break down his focus to get into that. So a couple of things I've used to work in collar ties, inside half collar ties and double collar ties, and especially against larger individuals. Okay, I want to have the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Like, what's your goal? Do you want to fight to a tie clinch? Are you trying to get to overhooks or underhooks? Go around the back, you just want to strike, you just want to get away. You need to know what you want to do next. The main thing is to create space, at least the way that I look at it in my experience. I'm creating space to then be able to do those things. So a couple of things to play with through double collar tie, have some fun, make your training partners miserable, and we'll see you next time.